Oh, good. We're live.
Be right back.
Yeah, hey, welcome everyone out there to Dance of the Soul. It's our weekly podcast where we talk about anything and everything from a spiritual perspective. And just to let you know what Natasha and I do, I'm a life between life therapist and life coach. I mostly work with the Newton Institute doing research and what happens to people when we pass away, what happens at death, where do we go? And then more importantly, what do we do when we're there? Do we come back again? And we have a process that's about 90% successful so that pretty much anybody that wants to have it's like, I jokingly say it's like a near death experience without the death part, where you actually get to spend a couple hours in the afterlife visiting people that have passed on, going before counsel who's there to answer any questions you've prepared before your session.
Mhm.
It sounds a little science fiction-y to a lot of people or Twilight Zone-ish, but it's not. It's just something that we all seem to have that ability to do. In a sense, you become like Natasha, or you become like a medium in a sense only you're a medium in trance rather than Natasha, who's just doesn't need to be in trance to have that. So
Thank you for that trust.
the work that we do is just to help get people to get some more answers to their lives, to make life a little easier to navigate. Um, because life is, I think 99% of people would say life is a challenge. There's just things that come up. And what we like to do is say, yes, life is a challenge, but you can be happy and have a wonderful life. And it could be a joyous experience, even with all the issues that you have, if you learn how to navigate things. And by getting answers to a lot of your questions about life, like why you're here, um, to know that you're not alone, to know that everybody has guides or angels watching over them, as we found out with 70,000 cases. Um, we're just proving what mediums have known all along, that there is a spiritual side to us. We're multidimensional in a sense. We're here, but there's a greater part of ourself beyond this.
Yes.
So what we want to do today is we just want to talk about why uh, life sends us such hard challenges sometimes, and things like why do we have to get sick and die? Why do we have to go through these things that seem like something that you would say, hey, I would have never signed up for this, but you got to find out that you did, and then you can just stop. You just stop complaining about it and get to work on learning whatever lessons you need to do or whatever you need to balance in your life. So, welcome, Natasha.
Thank you. Yes, I had to shut my door real quick. I forgot to shut my door before we went on live, so I apologize. Yes, and hello and everyone. And I wanted to kind of say that, you said something about we could stop complaining. Well, no, we're allowed to complain, but there's a reason
Yeah,
to doing things, and it's like, it's okay to complain, but it's sitting in the complaining all
yeah,
the time is the downfall. So it's changing it to okay, crap, this is happening. And then going, okay, I know there's a reason for it. Let me get through it. Let me walk through that challenge. And, we all have challenges. Even me, who, works on the spiritual side, I still have challenges.
me
You
too.
know, Regan does too. We all have them. It's just how do we negotiate through them to deal with it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anybody out there watching this today, live or in the future, you just think of the issues you're currently going with. You could probably count on your hand at least 5 things, that you're dealing with right now. A lot of things just have to do with dealing with difficult people in your life, or maybe you're in a job that you don't feel that you're wondering why the heck are you having to do this job that you don't like.
Hmm.
Uh, why are you sick right now? Um, why did I get COVID and my friend over there who probably deserves to get COVID didn't? I mean, things that we're thinking. Some people have illnesses that are lifelong. I mean, they're born. I had a brother born into this life that had muscular dystrophy, and he it was interesting seeing him. He was a year and a half younger than I, but ever since he was young, he had a little trouble with his motor skills. And
Mhm.
then when he was like, I remember, we didn't think anything of it really, but my parents finally had him checked out and they said he had muscular dystrophy. And then I slowly watched as he deteriorated, where he had a bicycle and he could pedal it. And then a few months later, he couldn't pedal it, but he could scoot along. And
Mhm.
it's just as with muscular dystrophy, your muscles just atrophy or something. You get less and less and less, or more deteriorated. And then when he became a teenager, he's in a wheelchair. So you know, when you're young, you just go. It's just your brother's in a wheelchair, and you don't know about muscular dystrophy, and you don't know about spiritual things, and church doesn't seem to answer the questions. Really.
No.
So, it's
And
not so.
there's nothing wrong with church not answering
Well,
it.
if they
There,
don't
but
know
there
me.
is a, but church is, that's why it's called religion, not spirituality sometimes.
Yeah,
And the spiritual side is what kind of gives the explanation to why things happen with the religion and the
a good way to
body
put it.
and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like on here, we're totally not against anybody's belief system because that's an individual choice.
Hmm.
Because sometimes when you hear like a lot of people that I know that I've run into in my practice, that we do the spiritual side to things, and I don't know why, but I get sent a lot of Catholics just like me when I was young. So kind of complain about the dysfunction of the church and things like that. But the message behind the whole thing in Catholicism is love and kindness and do unto others. It's just because we're human beings, we distort that somewhat to, our will rather than God's will.
Hmm.
That. So nothing wrong with religion at all, and the research we've done that shows that people on the other side ask that a lot of times, and maybe sometimes your clients, I don't know if they've ever asked you, say, well, ask them up there, what religion should I be? What I don't know what Natasha gets, but what my clients get is they just say, well, if you feel like you have a need for religion, pick one and enjoy it and learn from it. If you
Hmm.
don't have a need for it, just live your life every day with love and kindness, and you'll be okay. So
Well, my impression of religion is that, there's so many different religions because we all speak a different language.
mhm.
Even if we speak English, we're all speaking a
Oh,
different language, a different understanding, a different perception. And those different religions help us with that. And religion is about structure. It's about, because I grew up in, just because my parents didn't want me to be bussed all around Seattle, which is our a big city, so I went to Catholic school and there's the Catholic situation. But, it was one of those things that it gave structure and it gave some background knowledge to who Mother Mary was, who Jesus was,
right.
in the perception of man. And we're not going to sit here, this is what we're going to talk about, why do things happen to our bodies and things like, and why life happens. But that is part of it, is that why do we need structure sometimes in our life. And a lot of times we rebel from structure. But for me, religion is all around me. The way that I work is based off of a lot of different religions. And even my husband asked, well, what would you consider your belief system? And I said, well, at this time it's pouring down rain outside, but the sun is shining through it. And I go, do you see how the sun is sparkling through the rain? That is my religion.
Yeah.
That moment where the sparkle of a raindrop or the raindrop on a leaf, and it's just glistening, and you're in moment with that leaf, or you're in the moment of an animal looking at you and their total love for you, or those moments, like my husband always said, him fishing or playing golf is his religion.
Yeah.
It's his church, because of the fact that he gets into himself. He gets into that moment of oneness with himself. And that is what spirituality is about. And when we get more spiritual, we find out more why things happen in our lives. there's a reason for things to happen. They're the teachers. They're the grace. Many of us go through the grief system to find out how to be more vulnerable with ourselves,
Yeah.
how to open up the door to understanding that we're not the strong ones. We are actually the ones that are the vulnerable ones. The trees that stand around us are the strong ones, even though they get blown around in the wind. Yet we are the ones that are getting kind of pushed around by the storms of life, metaphorically, to learn and experience and to dance and stretch and pull and know that a lot of our belief systems that we grew up with, they can be a good base for us. I still, going through the Catholic religion all the way, the Catholic schools all the way through high school, they gave me a good basis. But that was just my kind, I want to call it my first foundation walls
Yeah.
of my house. They gave me the foundation. So I didn't stick in that, but I grew from that.
Yeah, I think, because some people say, well, I don't believe in all religions, so I'm not going to have my kids believe, I'm not going to put them in any religion. But I don't know. It's up to everybody to decide for themselves. But I think, like what you were saying, to at least have the children come up in some sort of belief system, but to let them know that as they get older, there's other belief systems and that they might find one that fits them better. But just to, let the, kind of put a foundation that it's not just us here. There's a whole, this, with God and everything that there is, that there's so many different things to learn and so many different ways of learning about God, but
Hmm.
it is good to have some structure. And I grew up, I went all the way through Jesuit high school, so did you go to a Catholic girls' school?
No, it was a local parish
Oh,
school.
okay.
And then the high school was kind of where all the parishes went into that one school.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, but yeah, if I hadn't had that Catholicism to start with, I wouldn't have been able to start being able to ask pertinent questions, because you had
Hmm.
a basis that way. And then you go, wait a minute, this sounds good, but what about this? It gets you
Yeah.
on the road to discovery.
Hmm.
Um,
Exactly. It's kind of like for me, I learned a relationship with Mother Mary, and people put her up on the pedestal. Oh, this virgin, da 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 da. And it's like, yet now me being the medium who talks to Mother Mary, I'm like going, yeah, she wasn't the virgin that everybody believes that she was.
yeah,
She was a woman. Joseph was a widower and had other children. It's like all these things that I
yeah,
know, but yet that's not for me to push that belief on somebody else.
yeah,
But it's for me to understand that Mother Mary is mother. She's one that loves and cares and cherishes and moves through our life because of the fact that it's like when I was having troubles one time with my alcoholic husband, and I was at my end of my ropes, and it was 2 in the morning, and I knew I needed to get up and go do something the next morning, and all I go is, I just need help. And all of a sudden I felt Mother Mary come up to me, and she started rubbing my cheek, and within just a few minutes I was asleep
yeah,
because Mother came and gave me love. And I want to cry about it almost to this day because of that fact. And when we're going through life and managing our life, and she's given me a lot of understanding why things are happening. Why did I, go through almost 22 years of an alcoholic husband? Well, I know for me that it flipped me upside down so I can stand on my own 2 feet.
right.
You
Yeah,
know,
but when I think of all the hardships I've been through in my life too, a couple of addictions and things to have to work through and everything. When I look back, it was all about learning about myself. It was
mhm.
actually, it's like I, in a sense, don't want to wish it on anybody to go through that, but because some people don't need to go through that because they've already learned their lesson. But
Mhm.
for us that haven't, sometimes when we, go through our lower selves and stuff, that's how we learn. Relate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you're Orion here.
Oh,
If
all
you
right.
would, if you could read, please, I
Oh,
would
so
appreciate that.
belief can be a choice, but often it's simply an emergent characteristic of one's individuality. Any competent creator deity would recognize that and certainly wouldn't send someone to a plane of hell just because they didn't believe in a particular religion. Yeah, that's what we've learned. I think Natasha and I from dealing with the other side. It's all love and light.
Hmm.
You know, there is correction, but it's done in a loving, you know, in a loving way. You know,
Yes.
and with
And usually it's through showing them different perceptions
yeah,
to say, "Oh, oh, it's not necessarily wrong or right. It was just that, oh, because up there they become more neutral about things because love is about neutrality. It's not necessarily making a choice or not. I had made choices even though I hold a lot of people in love. But it's having an understanding that there is other perceptions, other ideas, other knowings that come forth.
yeah,
Um and like my child, one of my children actually believes in a lot of the or Odin and a lot of the Noric belief system and gods
yeah.
and goddesses, and they all are part of it, you
Yeah,
know.
that's what we're finding out with this research we're doing. When people are on the other side, the Christians that come to me and they want to experience heaven and go to heaven and back, when they're there, we're sure to ask up there and say, hey, can then they talk to Jesus for a little bit? And every single time Jesus has shown up and had a conversation with
Mhm.
my clients. And it's been for those that are Christian that do that, it's one of the highlights of their journey to there and back. You know,
Mhm.
one of them I remember a 70-year-old Catholic woman. She wanted to speak to Jesus. She's having this beautiful conversation with him, and then she's in trance, and she goes, "Oh, Mother Mary's here," and Mother Mary showed up, and pretty soon they're talking about children and bringing up kids and stuff, and they're having like two women that meet in a grocery store talking about. Oh,
That's the mother I know. She's
yeah,
not at all on the pedestal. But
no,
I
just
can tell you all the angels, when Mother Mary speaks up, they all go, "Shh,
yeah.
mom's talking."
It
Shh,
was just
mom's talking.
it was a beautiful experience, you know. So
Mhm.
now I haven't had anybody talk to um, Buddha yet or whatever, but I'm sure he's there if they wanted to talk to. Well, I should to the I guess Buddha is the I forget his name because I've read all the books and everything, but I forget. But whoever he was that they called the Buddha, that
Mhm.
Buddha is just a symbolism for that, you know, that belief system. But the person who actually, you know, people call the Buddha had it in a
Mhm.
regular name and all that. Actually, I liked when I heard I was watching a video on YouTube with the Dalai Lama, and someone asked him, "Well, what's your religion?" And he just said, "Kindness." You know, and I thought that made the most sense to me of everything, and that's what we learn on the other side. That's the whole thing about being born and everything. In a sense, is to
Mhm.
develop a sense of kindness, and kindness meaning, you know, waking up and doing the right thing. You know, doing the loving things instead of hateful things. You know,
Mhm.
as much as
And and that's one thing that I know, that a lot of times our body, bringing this back around a little bit to why do things happen, that a lot of times when we're struggling with something, like I know that a lot of people who struggle with heart problems, that I find that they either have struggled with being able to love the way that they want to because they were taught not to love, and yet their soul, their knowings want to love, and um or they have loved way too much. They didn't have a boundary on love. They didn't they were they just threw themselves to everyone, and then people walked on them, and
yeah,
so then their heart really got hurt. And so that's where a lot of times that interaction of finding that balance of loving. That's why I say to many people, instead of "my heart aches for you," I say "my love aches for you." My knowings are trying to be there for you, instead of my heart is there for you. It's like, no, I want to keep my body is mine. And yet at the same time, going forward and knowing who we are, there's that balance and that strength. And so our hearts and our digestive systems and our throats and our, a lot of us, for our women, we get breast cancer and a lot of problems with our uterus because of the fact that we hold, either we're too much of a caregiver and we haven't embraced our own womanhood, or we struggle with being valued as a woman, as a value. And I love it, Orion, for when you you have such a knowing in you. I can see, I love the way that you look at life.
Well, let's see now. Okay, Jesus Christ. I guess that's with JC. Okay, I like that, JC. A friend of mine who practices Astura or a Norse. Oh, okay, what you were talking about,
Yeah.
salvation. She accepted, and there was an indication from Jesus Christ that he demanded worship or obedience. He extended his offer casually without religious conditions. I don't quite sure. Say, oh, Jesus Christ said he demanded worship or obedience. His he extended his offer casually without religious conditions. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Okay. That's the thing that we as I'm letting you read a little bit more, because there's a lot of thought in that statement.
there was no indication that Jesus Christ demanded worship or obedience. Okay. Yeah.
And he said this, no indication of that.
Yeah, which means Jesus is just about love, and
Exactly.
he'll be the first one to say, that's what I liked about some of you out there have listened to me over the year we've been doing this. Is the religion that found me, or spiritual path, was called Ekankar, and basically that's the religion was the most important thing is for each person to have their own personal walk, with God,
Mhm.
in other words. And they gave you spiritual exercises of singing like the hue. And when that vibration of singing that is a mantra, just kind of opened the door. And then you have your personal relationship with the other side through dreams and soul travel and that sort of
Mhm.
thing. And what I help people do in this life between life process through the Newton Institute is actually have what I would consider a soul travel experience. And in a sense, Natasha, when you are communicating with the angels and the guides on the other side, that's you're having, in a sense, an out of body experience,
Mhm.
because you're getting that. I guess we consider out of body being anything metaphysical or something that's coming from the other side
Mhm.
that way. So,
And I'm gonna change the definition of it from being out of body,
okay,
because of the fact that the more I channel, the more I want to be with my body.
yeah, I
But it's that being out of my own context of mind body,
yeah, it's like expanding consciousness. In other words,
expanding
you're still aware
consciousness.
that you're
Mhm.
here, and you're not, you know. And even when people, it's just a terminology that came that just means, when they say out of body, they just mean that part of you is expanding there, and
Yes.
there's always part of you that's here, that way.
Mhm. And
Um,
that's the thing that there's one movie, the one book that was written, The Shack,
yes, beautiful book.
isn't it? And I've read several of his other books, and I would give anybody the definition, read that author's books, because
It's
they have.
very
There's a
insightful.
movie that was made off The Shack, and
Yeah,
the movie has a different kind of context than the book. And
I
if
like the book better.
anybody, I really enjoyed that book because it gave an understanding to why.
Yeah,
Why? Because the man lost a daughter due to a kidnapper. And what is the greatest question you can ask? Why did that happen? And as I can remember, because it's been several years since I read it, but they didn't really give a reason why it happened. it was because man had a judgment. Man decided to do something wrong. We didn't have, it wasn't us that did it. We'll take your pain, we'll take your anger, but we're not the ones that caused it. And it was Jesus, God, and everybody. But I loved how God changed people like 3 or 4 times, was man, woman, and then Jesus was different character, because of the fact that it's not about who they are. It's about being with them. And, we're all in the midst of trying to get through life. I mean, just the other day, I got back from my weekend doing my father-in-law's service, then 2 days later, my husband left to go on a golfing trip. That morning at 3 o'clock, my dog got sprayed by a skunk. The
Yeah.
next day, our school, the power grid blew, and we didn't have power at school. And then, on Sunday, I was, 12 hours on the road. It was like, why do things happen? Well, that's where for me, like skunk shows up at the most opportune times.
Yeah.
You know, 3 o'clock in the morning. The last time skunk showed up at our house, we live in a rural area, so skunk is part of our neighborhood.
Yeah.
But decided when we had like 4 days of 104 degrees, and we were just done, cooked and done, because really none of us have air conditioning up here.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, I'm done. The air outside is the same as inside. I'm opening up. I just need to be able to walk outside. Guess who comes along? Skunk.
Yeah. Skunk.
And sprayed by our back door. So we had to shut the doors back up because of the fact we couldn't even open the front door because it travels around the house, right?
Oh man.
And so it's like, why does skunk come and happen? Well, if you look up skunk is about protection. They're very protective of their young. So the youngness in us, how to protect our young, the innocence of ourselves. Plus two, it's about saying boundaries. So in other words, our boundaries, and it'll flick its tail a little bit, to say, question, you sure you want to do this? Right. And so skunk is one about, we sometimes have to say, excuse me, this conversation doesn't feel quite right for me, and we can give that boundary. But then it's like, we have to be careful about if we're going to spew ourselves onto someone else. Now, another thing that I have to look at is, am I respecting other people's boundaries? Am I listening to their tellers?
Right. Yeah.
And so skunk is about that kind of thing. Well, my dog, who doesn't understand boundaries, part of that lesson was for her, because she's here to teach us about boundaries, because she doesn't hold well to boundaries. And so with that, but at 3 o'clock in the morning, so I need to look up what the number 3 represents, because it was at
Yeah.
3 o'clock in the morning. So, looking at why things happen. Hello, Jazz. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's
Hi,
good to
Jack.
see you here. That, as we're going forward and managing our life, that there are reasons why things happen. I actually got quite upset because I had a very busy day where people were going to come to my house and have sessions with me. And one was a session with some dear friends who lost their child, and so it was like, okay, my house smells like skunk, my dog smells like skunk, and I have people coming over.
Mhm.
How am I going to manage this? So I got angry at first, and then I Googled how to get rid of skunk on a dog or on an animal.
Yeah.
And so it was like, to absorb what's happening, look at what's happening, and then move on. And if we can do that part of it, life moves forward and we get going, and it makes more sense as we move. Now, people have always said, Natasha, you get a perception that is like puts dot to dot to dot to dot together so well that most of us can't do what you do. And I get that. I've had many sessions where people go, you put everything that I was thinking together into one conversation. How did you do that? I don't know, but I know that for me, when I always look at what is this here to teach me, and I'm willing to look it up, like skunk. Google skunk. What does skunk mean? That gives us a little bit of a different definition. Or like if a dog runs in front of us, look up what dog represents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Go ahead.
well, I think you're right there. I think it's best, pretty much everything that happens that's unusual that happens in your life that's other than the norm. It's always you can't go wrong by thinking, oh, what's something trying to tell me here? I mean, I heard from some very high spiritual people that say, sometimes when the milk spills, the milk just spills, and
Mm-hmm.
that's just, it's nothing there. But so many times when things happen in our life, the things that happen are trying to get our attention, or they're trying to show us some imperfection or something that we need to work on. What I found when I have people on the other side in this life between life process where they visit heaven and back, um, there's a point there where at some point along the way, I'll ask the guys or something there that tell them that my clients have some physical issues, some sicknesses or illnesses that they have, and we want to address them to see if we can find out first why they have their particular issue that they're going through, and then also find out if it's possible to get a healing. And the beautiful thing is, most of the time, my clients are told why they have the sickness that they have. In other words, why
Mm-hmm.
they're having to go through it. And it usually comes down to choices that we've made in our life, or ways of looking at things that uh, aren't the best way of looking at things. Something we need to learn. Whether
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have illnesses in that from anger that they hold in, from resentment they hold in, from not being willing to forgive their trespassers, uh,
Mm-hmm.
that sort of thing, or prejudices they have, or uh, the low self-esteem or self-worth when they're not loving themselves like they should. And emotional issues cause physical issues. We all pretty much know that nowadays. So they get it's beautiful when they get the reasons why, and then sometimes they don't like to hear that, because they know they've got some work to do. But many times I've had some physical healings happen where they will ask the higher self to do like a body scan and then ask for a healing. And I've seen a few of those now after 8 months that I've added this to my sessions, and seen a couple of people that have improved their health issues. But most of the time, they'll say, when you change your attitude about this and you work on this, the physical problem you have will subside by itself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
If you catch it early enough. Now, I can say there's some cancers and there's some other things that,
right.
it's sometimes when we make choices, I just don't want to be here. Cancel, Claire, delete that because I want to be here. Uh, and then 2 years later, something happens. We meet the love of our life, but then we 2 years earlier just kind of said, and we were done and cooked. That's the thing is that for me, I really make the choice when I go into a hard thing. I purposely say I'm here. I want to experience this. With grace and ease, love and light,
Yeah.
and you know, I've watched my parents pass away of cancer and Lou Gehrig's disease, and 22 years of an alcoholic husband, and my one of my children is transgender. I've had a life where life hasn't been, dyslexic my whole life. Didn't really. I'm still finally being able to read while I'm doing sessions. I'm just starting to in my 50s years here. That going through life and managing our life, there getting there is going to help us move forward. Now, one book that I use a lot, I love this book.
Oh, yes. I've heard of that. I haven't read it, but that helps you to kind of connect what illnesses you have, where they show in the body, as to what your issue probably
Hmm.
is, doesn't it?
Exactly, exactly. And so, like, if we have knee troubles, and it depends on if it's left side or right side, because knees are about moving forward, that flexibility of moving forward. And if we're having a hard time moving forward in our life, you know, there's that. And then if we have toe problems, are we feeling quite stable in our life? Because toes are about stability, right? Without a toe, we don't really find stability. And it's one of those things that as we're going forward, so Jazz, you asked, can I receive a message? You know, if it fits the context of the show, and if we can, we would love to. Yes.
Do you have a specific, ask a specific question there, Jazz, and see if Natasha can tune into you.
Yes. I would love to. It's
That's what she does.
that's what I do.
Very well, by the way.
But just remember though, this show is live on Facebook and YouTube.
Right.
So if you ask a question and I answer it, I will try to answer it with context of that. And I do private sessions. So if you want to go deeper into a situation, I can sure do that. And I know Regan can too. So
Right.
Regan does wonderful sessions. And what I like about this, like spine. A lot of people have spine problems, right?
Yeah.
So what she says is possible contributions to a spine problem. Uh, uh, and feeling weak, confusion, fearful, insecure, difficulty communicating with others, asking for what you want, feeling unsupported or alone. Oh, back problems. Yes. The mid back, feeling unsupported. Not knowing who or where to ask for help, feeling that the world is unsafe place to live, trying to protect yourself from pain or hurt, feeling stuck in a pattern or situation that can't get out of it.
Yeah.
So, and she goes through and gives a C1, C2, C3, and that kind of stuff. So, small intestine, if we're having problems with our intestines, feeling abandoned, insecure, easy distracted, vulnerable, confused, bloating, bloated, self-sabotage, feeling scattered, stuck, lost. So when we're working through life and managing our life, that many a times going through situations and finding out why it's okay. Even me, who's intuitive, many times goes to a reference. There's many times where, like an Animal Cross, I'll answer your question in a minute, Jazz. I saw that you put something in. But many times when an animal crosses my path, now I know what an animal represents, but I'm still looking up because many different authors will give different wordage, and that wordage will trigger, oh, I didn't even think about type of thing. So bodies
Right.
and animals and cause and effects can really teach us a lot. Go ahead, Regan. I apologize.
Well, no, that's all right. I'm just saying, yeah, I learned years and years ago too that in dreams, that when you have a particular animal in there, that you can usually relate it to something, in your life. Like a lot of times animals are metaphors for issues, for things that
Mhm.
we need to look at.
Exactly. Because I know that when I've had difficult people in my life, I've asked, what are they here to teach me? And as soon as I can do that, there's a lot of things that shift in the relationship between those two people.
Yeah.
What is this here to teach me? What are they here to negotiate? Like I had a coworker and a supervisor, and we ended up having somebody else who came into our classroom, and everybody else struggled working with her. And then I ended up being the para who could work with her. And the one thing that our supervisor found out, she's found out that she was to learn professional boundaries. Because she usually just would put on earphones and go, no, 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 no. Well, professional boundaries meant that she was going to have a continuous relationship with this person. So she would say, if she knew that this person was coming, because this person would talk and talk and talk and talk, talk, talk. So she would see through the window this person was coming. She'd put on earphones, right? Because she was trying to do some work. And the classroom was a little bit busy, so she put on earphones, and the person would come up and go, "Oh, yes, hi, how are you? Is everything okay? Yeah, well, I'm busy right now. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll get on that. Okay, thank you. I'm gonna get back to work. Okay, bye." Professional boundaries. So she didn't want to talk, and she gave the excuse. And so with that gave professional boundaries. Now with me, it taught me that I can still be my intuitive self, but she didn't want to hear I was intuitive. She didn't want to hear anything that I had to say. So how can I do my personal awareness life coaching in through the back door? So it taught me some skills on how to help someone who didn't want to be helped, because she was kind of a narcissist. Um, you know, and working through that. And then as soon as we kind of said, we're done with these lessons, we're done with this experience, we want to move on. Thank you for teaching us our experiences. Pretty soon the universe said, okay. And she moved on to her next journey. And it was kind of interesting how when we learned all those kind of, each person had their own thing to learn from this situation. I'm not going to say the person, because the person could have been the one who was learning also.
Right.
But the situation, that we all learned something out of it. And it was an interesting process. It was a very interesting process. Yeah. So learning from life is it just brings a whole different thing. That's why I love teaching feng shui and working through feng shui, because it gives, oh, I'm struggling with my marriage. Okay. Let's see. What does my marriage corner look like? Oh, it's quite dusty. There's an old dead, or an old broken down box that I just threw in the corner. Oh, there's a broken piece. Oh, look at that picture. It's about somebody going in my marriage corner. No wonder I'm having problems. So shifting and fluffing it up can help. So I haven't forgotten you about Jazz, because I'm tuning in actually as I'm talking. So not knowing you personally, I'm going in and finding out from your higher self and things like that. So I'm actually doing my work while I'm talking. But Veronica said something. If you don't mind reading, please.
Okay, I've noticed when I'm going through certain situations in life, I ask myself, what is this here to teach me? And it really helps me. Yeah, that's when you look at your situations of difficulty in life as uh, um, possibility of learning something, instead of it being like a curse or something you want to push away. Uh, you'll have two people side by side going through the same situation, and one of them will breeze through the situation and be happy. And well, maybe not all. In other words, it's much easier to get through the situation and to learn from it when you realize that everything is a lesson.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Veronica. I appreciate that. Yes. We've done a lot of that work.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing. I can remember probably 100 instances since I started thinking that way, where I'd be like, oh, and then okay, what's there to learn through this? And then all of a sudden, the situation just kind of solves itself,
It
or it
does.
becomes easier to get through the situation, or some stranger will come by and help me with something or whatever. Just changing that attitude.
Perspective, and changing it from being victim to, instead of being reaction, to interaction.
Right.
It really helps. Okay, so Jazz, what I'm getting is that, uh, ha- okay, I'm finding my wording here. That you wanted to know if you would conceive children. Okay. Uh, and what I'm getting is yes, you will. There is some personal work that you can do to help with that. For one, take away your expectations from it. Why? I know that's hard. I give that grace. There's that part of it. It's kind of like when we try to do something that's like trying to find something, and we try to find it, we try to find it, and we can't find it until we stop looking for it, and then we find it. It's that kind of perspective on expectations. Another thing, have you started loving your uterus? Have you started loving your ovaries? I feel like there's some family history that is uh, shaming, and I'm trying to find my words here, because we are live here, and some not lovable moments towards womanhood in your family. And that it's one of those things about even just saying, I love you. Thank you for being here. I'm putting my hands down over my ovaries and my uterus and knowing that, thank you for being there. Uh, do you have a little bit of fibromyalgia also? I feel like there's some a little bit of scar tissue, or there's something that's not quite negotiating quite right. And so you might want to check in if that is true. I'm not a doctor by any means, but uh, I'm checking in with you to see, because sometimes I can see things, and like I said, I'm not a doctor, but yet I do see things. Uh, that as we go through and start loving ourselves for being woman, for one, and then loving our female parts of us for the journey that it's gone through the generations. Because I know for me that you definitely understood that. For me, I did my Okay, so my grandmother took pills in the early 40s to help with morning sickness, and that caused a ripple effect of my mom having a hysterectomy when she was 21 years old. I was born, and within months after I was born, my mom had a hysterectomy because she had problems, and then I had struggle with my female organs because of a pill my grandmother took. So I went back and did a lot of healing work on the female organs of my family through the line, and that helped. So now in my later years, I'm not having as many problems. And then I found the right doctor to help me get on the right hormones. And then I found the right doctor to help me through this situation and that situation. And so with me doing the emotional work to do some healing, that helped me do some of that love. And I can tell you that there are some things in your family line that has added, I'm going to do this metaphorically, scar tissue about being able to be fully aware and alive, to be the full woman that you are, so that you can produce a child to be your love. And remember that children are some of our greatest teachers. Our children are some of our greatest teachers. And so when we do choose to have children, it's a being aware that, okay, what am I going to learn from this child so I can be my greater self? And when we can go into that point of that, sometimes we struggle having conception because all we want is to be loved. And we think that that child is going to fill up the love. And that's not what the child is for. The love ourselves first. I love you. Standing in the mirror saying, I love you. I love you. I know that you're perfectly imperfect. I love you. I love you. I love you. Standing in the front of the mirror and saying that, because the fact when we can love ourselves, then we finally can love the ones that come through us.
Yeah. I think that's really good counsel there too. It's like too many people sometimes, there are not too many, but I know a number of clients I've had that have had children for the wrong reasons. One was just 14 years old and she didn't feel she had love in her family. So she thought, well, if I have a baby, the baby will love me, and boy, that turned out,
Oh, that's usually when the kid at 3-year-old says, I hate you.
right. Well,
Which is like, okay, I'm glad you feel that way. I love you too.
Find some ways of, and if there's some things that have happened in your life that you're holding on to that have caused damage to, it's pretty good to do some work on that to get past that, because we tend to otherwise we kind of take it out on our kids.
Mhm.
That way
Yeah, that sounds
don't
like
want to do that. Now, here's the cool thing too. I regress people through the womb, where my clients actually go to the womb, and then they go that to a past life, and then they go beyond that to the place they go between lives, where they go back to heaven, which is where we're actually we've in the research with 70,000 people now, we found out that God creates us on the other side, and so in a sense, we have one life because God just creates on their side. But then during that one life, we have many adventures, coming down into different bodies and learning things and everything. Um, but that soul, that little baby that you have in your body, could have been your parent in a past lifetime, or it could have been, a good friend or something. So just knowing that, you're bound to be a little more mature when that baby's in your womb, of knowing that baby's actually, what we found out in the research is when the soul's in the womb, they're in full consciousness, because
Yes.
they've just come from heaven. So they know exactly they know what you're feeling, what's going on. So you want to be careful and to not do any damage to them when they're in the womb by what you say and do and feel and everything, so
Mm-hmm.
a huge responsibility. So yeah, if you have a contract with another soul to be its mother, there's a good reason, and that's usually that soul has something they want to help you learn, and knowing that you can help them learn something too. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
two-way street, like Natasha was saying.
Yeah,
So
it's a fine line. I'm checking in also too to see if you have a soul that's waiting to come in.
yeah,
And it's a little bit further out. It's not close up. So there's something that in your personal life that if you can work through it, especially the summer is um uh that this child, the soul's child, or the soul is ready to come in and wants to come into you. But there's that little bit of what I gave you can help, and what Regan was saying too, definitely, that if you can help that, but doing a lot of this personal work, sitting and being with you, being with the moments, even if it's because a lot of us are going through life kind of outside of us. What can I do? What do I need to do? Where are we going to go? What's happening? Instead of sitting back and going, okay, I'm going to love myself today. Yeah, I know I'm perfectly imperfect. I know life isn't perfect around me. I know that I've gone through some trials, but here I am. I'm ready to receive, to help someone come into this world so that they can learn their experiences and their lessons. Because that's the thing, is when we bring a child in this world, it's up to them to learn their lessons and experiences. Like what my husband said to me, saying, when my child said that I was that she was transgender, and I went, and he was, well, can't you talk her out of it? I go, that's her life experience. I can't talk her out of her life experience. I can love her through it. I may not always agree with what she does, but it's her life experience. I can't change it.
yeah,
And knowing those life experiences takes some of the pressure off. It's, like my kid who walks, at 3 o'clock in the morning to work because he doesn't drive yet. It's like, that's his experience. Holy crap, angels protect him, but I gotta sleep at night, and that's his experience.
yeah. I'm just, doing the spiritual work. It's just, you just see how beautiful and wonderful this process is of you women that can make human beings. I mean, there's on TikTok,
Scary. It's
there's
one of the
a thing on
scariest experiences,
there's
but
a
yeah,
big
it's
thing on
amazing.
TikTok where women are like, guys are complaining about, and they go, "Look, I made a human. What have you done? I'm a human being." Like, there's no way of topping that. That a guy can do that. Says, have you made a human being? Well, I made a human being.
But it took the sperm and the egg to come together at one point to
Yeah,
help make that. But yes,
we
we
all
do
know that
carry
the
them.
women gets the brunt of the work. You know,
Yes.
done.
So talk, remember, Jazz, to talk with your body down to your yoo-hoo is part of the experience in having a child. And so if you talk with your body and say, I want to are you willing to accept this? Because sometimes our bodies are in such fear and flight mode, or they're in such angst that they don't know how to accept something else to happen. And that might be a little bit of the scar tissue that I feel around your gut area is that there's been some trauma that you've been, I'm going to say this with love, holding on to a little too tight. And I mean that it's it's okay that you've gone through a lot of but at the same time, though, there is that part where we have to, in a way, for survival mode, so that we don't carry it on our shoulders, and our back hurts, and then we get headaches all the time because we're struggling trying to not to think about things even though they keep knocking on the door. There's that part where it's like having the breath in, breath out. Okay, you're here to visit me. I'm stressed out about that thought. Okay, I'm going to get concentrating on something else so that I can deal with something else today. And then that comes back, and then you go forward. And it's one of those things. So if you would like to have a little bit more help, I know Regan can help you, or I can help you in some working through some of this backdoor stuff that is being a hindrance in your life.
Yeah, Jazz, a lot of my clients have talked to Natasha. She's helped them a lot. If you do because I know she's holding back right now some things she has, but that's just because this is public. But she's very reasonable, so don't worry about that. She'll help you out. So it would probably help. One thing that I wanted to tell you that I've learned just physically now, that if you're going to have a baby, that's so important. You're the manufacturer. Your body is manufacturing this, putting this baby together. And if you don't within yourself have all the right pieces, like building, say, for a car, if you're in a car factory and they're building a car, but their factory is missing a few pieces, then that car that comes out is not going to be as good as it could be. So it's real important with nutrition that you are taking care of your body, that you're not drinking or doing drugs or anything like that, because then that's going to take away from, how you're building that body within yourself. There's a Dr. Eli Wallach, Dr. Wallach. He's on the internet. If you go to Youngevity, Youngevity.com, they have this Dr. Wallach, who is renowned for his formulas and things that he has to help make sure that your body gets all of the minerals and the vitamins and everything that it needs when women are going through pregnancy. But check that out. So just you got to be really responsible with no smoking, drinking, anything that's going to be going in your body that's going to not allow you to grow the best human that you can. So be conscious of that.
And what's really sad is that there's people where they can look twice and be pregnant. But at the same time, though, if you notice that people who are like that, I'm perception changes. Not everybody fits in this mode. And I mean this with love, that a lot of times that life, that soul was wanting to learn lessons of coming in surprised, and how to work with someone who's not quite ready for you. And that soul is helping this other person to get ready, where people, like for me, I didn't get pregnant right away. It took me a little while, and I had a lot of miscarriages. So there again, with some of the things that my grandmother did. But I also knew that my first marriage, when I had a lot of miscarriages, if I would have had a child with that person, oh my gosh, I don't know where my life would be, because I think he's in jail now. Because the fact that he was on drugs and stuff like that. Now, my second child, my second marriage, it ended up that I got pregnant at the same time that my father was passing. And I know when that happened that I really wanted my dad to be in my child's life. Yet at the same time, though, my child coming into my life at that time helped me not be so depressed. And then my second child was born when I found out my mom had Lou Gehrig's disease. Well, I think the universe knew that I couldn't be a caretaker to my mom. And so I was where I would feed my child, my husband would feed my mom. Because I knew I couldn't feed my mom. I don't know why. there's a bigger picture out there. I know that I'm not a caregiver. I'm a giver of care, but not a caregiver. And so there was that fine line. So there were some reasons why these things came into my life. So checking in with that, Jazz, that there's a reason why things happen and like I was reminded on Friday night with a dear talk with a dear friend, it's not always in our time, but it's always in God's time. And
Yeah.
whoever God is in your definition, I'm using just the word God. So it's your belief system. And
In the Life Between Life session, which
around me is pregnant, but me. Yeah. And it hurts. And my love goes with you. That really hurts. And I'm sorry. And that's where some of that expectations come in last year. And I told her so many times I wanted to conceive.
sorry about
And I'm so sorry about that. Yeah, and when we're going through grief too, dear one, when we're going through grief, it knocks us around. It really knocks us around, and we're not our right self. And so a lot of times our guts get tied up in knots when we're going through grief, and it's not easy to relax that area of our body. And you're coming into a moment of time where that first year is just, sometimes I find in grief that first year is sitting in of into reaction, because you're not quite there. And then the second year is about this is the first year that I haven't done this with them. This is their birthday. I haven't. And so there's a lot of remembrances the second year. And then the third year is one that we kind of go, ouch, this hurts.
it's a lot to go through.
It is. And so give yourself breath. I'm going to tell you, give yourself breath. And I know that your sister would ask you to know that she's okay also, and that she loves you.
Can you feel her sister now?
It would help a little bit more to clarify if I had initials, but we're coming down. We're at that 5 o'clock. It's one of those things. So it sounds like there's a lot going on with you, Jazz, and conception. If you really look at what conception is, it's about bringing something into your life and then giving birth to an idea, giving birth to a lot of different scenarios. And so if you really look at what conception, look up conception in the dictionary and look at what that means, and see where you're having struggles with conception in other parts of your life too. And it's amazing when we can do that. That might help you out a little bit. And JA, okay, so was she about your height, maybe a little bit shorter? She's sweet. She was loving. Wrong place, wrong time. She really wants you to know, don't worry about me. I'm in a good place. I'm in a good place. And she the last thing she wanted to do, and this is a theme that most everybody says on the other side, I'm sorry I'm dealing this to you with all this pain. I'm sorry that I caused this much pain leaving you. And she's sad. She's telling me that there is a little one here that wants to come to you. Not at the right time yet, sis. Not the right time. I'm being shown September. So do a lot of this. Take what we said, Regan and I said in this show, and apply that. And hopefully through the summer, with doing some of that inner work and the healing work, looking up conception and how you're struggling with conception in a lot of other places in your life. And moving forward, you'll probably find that in September, you'll be more healthy. Feed your body like you are pregnant. Picture yourself you are, because sometimes what we focus on is what we get. So are you focusing on I can't get pregnant, or are you focusing on I'm not pregnant yet? Some ideas for you. Your belief system is your belief system. Your truth is your truth. These are just seeds for thought for you, my dear.
Very good. Well, if anybody wants to get a hold of me, should I do that now?
Yes, you should. I think it's a
Okay.
good time.
You go to my website, visit theafterlife.com. You can see some videos, and there's lots of information on this life between life process where in a deep state of trance, everybody gets to go to the other side for a few hours and come back. Like at some time later on, it was jazz, right? It was just,
Hmm.
if you wanted to actually see your or visit your sister who passed on in person, there's a very good likelihood that in a deep state of trance, you'd be able to actually have a one-on-one with her on the other side and ask questions and that. But it's just showing you the different possibilities here and the different ways there are of connecting with the other side. So anyway, on the website, you can get a hold of me. Also, too, if you're going through any grief yet, or if you have any issues, Jazz, that personal issues where therapy might help you, any difficulties or scars or PTSD or anything that could be in your past, and you want to kind of put that behind you. Regular therapy does wonders, with hypnosis and EFT, which is emotional freedom technique, can pretty much deal with most any of those problems to kind of get the worst behind you. So if there's any of that, or if you have any family members, online sessions work really, really well. I'm in California. I see people all over California, Northern and Southern California. But other than that, I do them on Zoom, which is just like me being there. So, Natasha, how would she get a hold of you if she wants to have a session, or anybody else that's watching the show?
You can reach me at angelicclarifications.com, angelicclarifications.com. And I love to support people through moments like this, where we're all going through a form of grief somewhere. We're all going through emotions, and we still want our life to move forward. And sometimes it's about stopping and breathing so that we can move forward. Sometimes that's stopping and breathing and loving ourselves a little bit for what we've gone through, so that we can love ourselves with what we're going through, so we can love ourselves with what we're going to go through, can help a little bit more. And I'm hoping that love can be with you, Jazz. And thank you, Veronica, for being with us. And
Yeah.
Orion, thank you for your input. I am so grateful that all of you were here to watch today. And even if you did not make a comment, welcome and thank you. We are here Monday at 4:00 for Dance of the Soul. And on Wednesday at 4:00 on the same station, same place, Facebook, and my YouTube channel, I am on for Life Clarification Snip with Natasha. And also, too, if you email me, I am doing a class for feng shui.
Yes.
Feng shui can change your life. And so, my dear, if you are wanting to conceive, you might want to look at how your house is set up too, because that can make a big difference in your health corner and your family. So with that I'm going to be teaching class. It's free, by the way. I just don't want to do this on Facebook. I wanted to do it on Zoom, just to keep it more of a close knit. So if somebody wanted to share private stuff, it wasn't on air. So
What date?
with
June when?
June 23rd, Thursday at 6:00.
Okay. So they would just contact you at Angelic Clarifications,
Angelic Clarifications.
and then they give you their email or something so that you could send them a
Yeah.
link. Okay.
Exactly. Or you can email me at natasha@angelicclarifications.com.
Yeah, I've heard. Well, I've been to a few feng shui classes over the years, but they're a blast. They're really fun, and you start going, "Oh my gosh, that just makes so much sense."
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when you learn the stuff, you just feel like, "Oh, yeah," you know.
Duh. I know I've gone in and feng shuied people's houses, and it's been amazing how I went from one of my friends who she had anxiety, and she didn't feel safe in her house. By the time I got done, she felt like I have my country home.
Yeah.
And that was her breath. That's the way she was talking, was I have my home. I feel comfortable in my home.
Mm-hmm.
And she even lived at where the road came down and the energy swooped into her house. And we even fixed that.
Yeah. There's
So
lots of little simple things you can do that'll increase the good vibes to your place.
Exactly,
So that
exactly.
when you
So,
walk in or other people walk in, they just go, "Ooh, this feels nice in here," you know?
yep, exactly, exactly. So, blessings to all. Thank you all for watching. And I do hope and pray that everybody goes into these weeks to come with grace and ease, love and light, and know that you can call upon the angels to help you through some of the work that you're going through. You may notice that they're there because of an animal that crosses your path to give you an answer, or a conversation in the store you overhear helps. They work in magical ways. So blessings to you. Thank you for everyone for coming. See you
Yeah.
later. I hope to see you again. Bye now.
Bye.